Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rank and File Sports. And today we're going to be hopping right back into our series where we are predicting every single Power 4 team's record by the start of the college football season. And today it's the TCU Horned Frogs. 2 years ago they made the national championship game, and then last year weren't even able to make a bowl game. Now, can they turn it around this year and have a winning season, or will it be another year of struggles for TCU? TCU starts off the season with a road trip to new ACC member Stanford. This game should be pretty interesting. It's on a Friday night. The Horned Frogs are the more talented team, but going on the road to start the season is never easy, so this game could be a little bit closer than a lot of people think. The Long Island game is nothing to worry about, and then Big 12 play kicks off with UCF. The Knights are a pretty speedy team this season, and it's most likely going to be a very high-scoring game. Could go either way, but the home field advantage should help the Horned Frogs. Following that are two pretty difficult road matchups. SMU, their next non-conference game. They are an ACC team now, despite being in Texas. This game should also be very high scoring. Another fun one to watch. SMU probably is going to have the home field, or probably going to have the advantage because they are at home, and also maybe just a little bit more talented than TCU. Kansas, another road matchup. Kansas is also going to be pretty good this year. Jalen Daniels is a very good quarterback, and his dual threat ability makes it very hard to contain this Kansas offense. So TCU is going to struggle on the road here. Houston at home shouldn't be that bad of a matchup. Houston is going to struggle quite a bit this year in the Big 12. They are not quite as good as they used to be a few years ago, back when they were one of the better teams in the American Conference. I expect them to finish near the bottom of the Big 12 this season. Following their first bye week, they have a very, very tricky road matchup at Utah. The Utes are the Big 12 favorites this season, and they are going to be a very, very talented team. Cam Rising is back at quarterback after his injury last season, and just overall, this is going to be a very difficult upset for TCU to pull off. Texas Tech is a home matchup. This game is also going to be pretty close, maybe a little bit lower scoring than some of the other matchups. But the fact that TCU has Texas Tech at home should help them in being able to get a win here. The road trip to Baylor is also going to be a little bit tricky. However, TCU seems to be a better team than Baylor this season, so we like their chances at getting a road victory. The next two games, although they have a bye week in between, are going to be very, very difficult. Oklahoma State and Arizona are two of the better teams in the Big 12 Conference. Both of these games are at home for TCU, but honestly, it's probably not going to matter. They both have excellent offenses and probably are just going to outscore the Horned Frogs in the end. And finally, finishing the season on the road at Cincinnati. The Bearcats are simply not going to be a very good team this year. They will probably finish near the bottom of the Big 12. So this game shouldn't be too tough for TCU. Overall, they have 6 home games and 6 away games, with 3 opponents ranked in the Rank and File Top 25, giving the Horned Frogs a schedule difficulty of 5.5 out of 10. Not much really needs to be said about this matchup against Long Island. This will be a guaranteed win for TCU. Just really no way that they end up losing this game. 4 games on the schedule are likely wins for the Horned Frogs. The first is that road trip to Stanford. I think TCU is probably going to end up winning this game by around a touchdown, but this game will most likely end up being something where TCU has a little bit bigger of a lead and Stanford kind of makes it close in the end. We do like the Horned Frogs to win this game on the road to start the season. Now the next one is on September 14th against UCF at home. This game is going to be very high scoring, like I already mentioned, and I do think UCF is going to have a chance to win this one near the end of the game, but we do like TCU to be able to defend their home turf and get the win. Next matchup is against Houston. This one's on Friday, October 4th. It will be a night game, which makes this one maybe a little bit more interesting than if it was, say, like a noon kickoff or something. But the fact that TCU is just the better team and they're at home, really don't see them losing this game. It's going to be a likely win for the Horned Frogs. And finally, the November 30th matchup at Cincinnati. We do like TCU to win this game. Cincinnati just simply isn't a very good team, so the Horned Frogs will be favored, and we do have them getting the win. We have 5 toss-ups on the schedule for TCU, which leaves a lot of wiggle room for their record prediction, because that's 5 games that really could go either way. The first of which is a road trip to SMU on September 21st. It's pretty early on in the season. SMU does have the home field advantage. They have a slight talent advantage. This one's most likely going to end up being an SMU win. But non-conference game early in the season, SMU's not quite used to the Power 4 competition yet. It's definitely one where TCU could pull away, but we do think SMU is going to be favored. The next one's a road trip to Kansas. Kansas in this one is going to be favored, but we do think TCU is going to be able to keep it close. The Jayhawks are a pretty good team, but I like their offense more than I like their defense, so I think that TCU might be able to hang around a little bit with this Kansas team who is going to score a lot of points. In the end, Kansas will probably pull away and win by about a touchdown, but TCU should keep it interesting for a while. On October 26th, they have a matchup at home against Texas Tech. This Texas Tech team is very well-rounded at all positions. They really don't have a weakness anywhere, but they also don't have a position of strength, which means against teams like TCU, they're going to be very competitive, and this is going to be a pretty tough game for TCU to win. Unfortunately for Texas Tech, they're not going to be able to beat teams that are much better than TCU. However, we do think they'll be favored in this game and most likely get a road victory. Following that is a road trip to Baylor. Now, we do think TCU is better than Baylor. However, the fact that this one's on the road was just enough to drop it from a likely win into the toss-up category for us. We do think TCU wins this game, but it might be a little bit closer than people expect. And the final toss-up is the matchup against Arizona at home. This one's coming pretty late in the season, and if you watched our video about Arizona, you would know that we think Arizona is a very talented team this year. They have a lot of firepower, but they're lacking depth. So later on in the season, some injury issues and just overall wear and tear on the team will make it tougher for them to win games like this one. We do have them favored still. However, it should be a pretty close game in the end. 2 likely losses for TCU this season, the first of which is that road trip to Utah. Now, the Utes, like I mentioned, are going to be the favorites to win the Big 12 this season, and they deserve the respect that they're getting. They have a very talented team, and the fact that this is on the road for TCU makes it a very difficult game to win. And finally, on November 9th, the matchup against Oklahoma State. The Cowboys, kind of like Utah, are a very talented team. I think Utah is a little bit better. However, Oklahoma State just simply has a better offense. They have a better defense. TCU's at home, but I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. We do have the Cowboys winning this one on the road. Moving on to the projected record. We do have TCU winning their first 3 games, including that Big 12 opener. However, we have them dropping the next 2, the road trips at SMU and at Kansas. Both of these teams we feel are just a little bit better. They're both going to have the advantage at home, so we went ahead and picked them. They bounced back with a win over Houston, who, as I mentioned, are going to be finishing kind of near the bottom of the conference in that bottom half. And after the bye week, one more loss on the road at Utah before bouncing back over Texas Tech. Now, like I said about Texas Tech, they're going to be a very well-rounded team, and I mentioned that they might be favored in this game. We ended up going with TCU. They are the home team, and just overall, Texas Tech is a well-rounded team, like I mentioned, but they are probably going to lose one or two games that maybe they shouldn't. I think this might be one of them. We like the Horned Frogs to win at home. Next up, the road trip to Baylor. This one is going to be kind of interesting. The fact that it's at Baylor makes this one a little bit closer for TCU. In the end, we went with the Horned Frogs on the road, although it was only a 60% chance, which is why that fell in the toss-up category. The next two games, although both at home, are also going to be losses for TCU with Oklahoma State and Arizona. Both of those teams, like I mentioned, are just better than TCU, and they will get the win on the road. And then they bounce back in the last week of the season with a road victory at Cincinnati. So we have the Horned Frogs record sitting at 7-5, with the projected record at 6.65 and 5.35. FPI's got them at 7-5 exactly, with a 9.9% chance to make the playoffs and a 0.2% chance to win the national championship. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in our next video.